Hello everybody and welcome to the very first tutorial for Adobe InDesign. InDesign is actually known as a layout program. It's going to be a little bit different than Photoshop because rather than editing things, InDesign is solely used for placing things in an organized way on a page, other words known as layout. So we'll kind of get right into things. I have a little bit of a sample of everything that we'll be able to set up by the end of this little tutorial. But first things first, I have set this up for our magazine project, okay? So if you'll notice, I'll have 4 pages here, but in order to get to that, we first need to figure out how to set everything up. So let's start with what you probably see whenever you open up a new window or begin to load up your InDesign program. Chances are, if you search down in the lower left-hand corner in your little search bar and you go IND, InDesign will pop up. It is that very first purple icon, so go ahead and click on that to open up your first InDesign program. So what we're going to do first is we are going to set up a document. Each one of these create new documents, and you can see I have some past documents. Don't worry about those. The main focus whenever this opens up is this create new. So if you can see, you'll have a couple of choices here. Basically, we're only going to work with documents. Books are good if you have a ton of documents and you want to organize them all together. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can even create your own library, which is a collection of books, which is a collection of documents. Okay, so since we're only doing 4 pages, we're not getting too crazy. We're not, describing our lives' works or anything like that. We're just going to do document for most of the time in this class. So go ahead and click on Document. If for some reason you opened up your program and it does not have this startup window, another way to create a document, or if for some reason you accidentally X out of this window, what you can do is you can go up to File, and then you can come on down to New, and then very carefully go all the way over, and you can see you can even select Document right there. Some people go New, and then they'll accidentally go down to Open, and then their selection kind of vanishes, so just please be very careful with that. So you'll get the same pop-up window either way. So here we start setting up our documents, okay? So there's a couple vocabulary words that you should probably know before we begin, and that is pica, which a pica is actually a unit of measure, so it is actually spelled like this, P-I-C-A, okay? And there are actually 6 picas per inch, okay? So in 1 inch, believe it or not, there are 6 picas, okay? So in the graphics world, it's just a lot easier to break things down into more organized or more smaller dimensions just because, you know, type can be so small on a sheet of paper. So they invented picas, okay? So it's very important that you know that. Just because InDesign actually measures its height and width, you can see here, in picas. That's what that little P stands for. All right. So you can see we already have some stock page sizes here, letter being standard size, standard printer paper. But if you did some multiplication division, you should know that a letter size piece of paper is a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So this 51, if we were to divide that by 6, because there's 6 picas in an inch, you would eventually end up with an 8.5 width in inches, and 66 divided by 6 gives us 11 inches. So this is an 8.5 by 11, just proven to you mathematically. If you want your paper to be switched, okay, so if you want to type on a piece of paper that's straight up and down, much like this little note card that I'm holding, that is known as, again, portrait, or the other orientation that you can select is called landscape, which is a side-to-side piece of paper. Now, some children's books, you know, are quite wide. When you open them up, they kind of open up as such, very wide. But most books open portrait, okay? So most magazines as well, more formal artworks or formal collections are normally portraits. So we're going to go with portrait. Moving on down here, you can see we also have margins right in the bottom, and that's basically you'll have this little tiny kind of outline, which you'll see soon enough here. And what a margin is it's an area that you don't necessarily work in, okay? So imagine how hard and how strainful on your brain it would be if words in a book traveled all the way to the edge of the paper, okay? Each and every time. Plus, when they cut the paper to make the books, it might cut off a word and now the whole book doesn't make sense, okay? It would be Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secret, okay? So, in which case, what we do is we add these little margins, which are basically stay away from this area, just so that your work looks a little bit neater, which you'll see in 2 seconds here. The last thing I'm going to mention before we get started is the number of pages and facing pages, all right? So the number of pages is, of course, how many pages do you want in this document, all right? So we're going to go ahead and switch that over to 4. And the reason being is because, believe it or not, with our book, we have 4 different pages that we're dealing with. We have the cover, and then when we open up our little book here, all right, you have page 2, page 3, and then the 4th page is actually that final page as well, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to keep that 4 page, and that's basically just a piece of paper front and back folded over, which you're about to see. But facing pages is something a little bit different. So go ahead and check facing pages and you'll see what I mean. So what facing pages does, let me go ahead and click OK. So if this is set up correctly, please click OK. If you're still wondering if anything's not right here, hit pause and be sure all of your values are the same as mine. So if I click OK, wait, Mr. Thom, I thought that you said that there was going to be 4 pages. There is, okay? The reason being is because this is page 1, the cover. If I go down, scroll down, there's my other ones, and there's my 4th one kind of hiding off to the side. If you press and hold Control and use the scroll on your mouse, okay, what you can do is you can actually scroll side to side. Just a little keyboard shortcut for everybody to make it easier to navigate. All right. But what facing pages did, and I'm going to hit Control minus to zoom out. So notice it's kind of the same controls as Photoshop. Pretty simple. Thank you, Adobe, for doing that. Not making it too confusing for us here. But what facing pages did is it put page 2 and page 3 together. Because whenever we open a book, it kind of looks something like that. You know, page 2 and page 3 are right together. So in order to make these seem a little bit more unified, what will oftentimes happen is they'll have some type of design going across them to where it'll make them look as though they're related. So in total, we got page 1, okay, which is your cover, all right? And then when you open up your book, you have page 2 and page 3, as long as you have facing pages. And then lastly, you have the back cover, page 4, okay? So if we did not do facing pages, basically it would just be 4 sheets of paper down in a row, kind of like Microsoft Word, very boring, and you would not be able to design and line up across these pages as we are about to do. So let's get right into things, all right? We learned how to set up our documents correctly. We learned how to set up facing pages and how many pages. We're getting pretty far pretty quick here. It's only been 8 minutes, all right? So we're already almost halfway done, but I still have a whole bunch to teach you. So next thing, frames, all right? So let me hit Control plus to zoom in here. So what a frame is it's basically a box or some type of shape that contains something, all right? So right along the edge here, we have a couple of your tools, all right? The main tools that you'll need to adjust your frames are the actual frames themselves, these little tiny rectangles, and the selection tool. So you'll notice that InDesign has 2 different rectangle tools right here, right below the pencil, or maybe even what you might see as the smooth tool, erase tool. But we're going to worry about these 2 rectangles here. So one has an X in it, and the other has nothing, okay? That is because in the graphics industry, a box, which I'm just going to go ahead and make using my little X box tool right there, that represents that a photo will eventually go there. So maybe, for instance, maybe, let me go ahead and use my select tool and hit delete on my keyboard to delete that. Maybe inside of my little booklet here, again, so let me break out my mini book. So I just opened up my mini book, and you'll see that I have this little smiley face in the top corners, okay? Maybe I don't have the specific artwork, or maybe my artists that I'm working with have not developed that smiley face yet. So what they do in the industry is they'll take one of those graphics boxes, which is why it has that X in it, and maybe they'll just add a little tiny square in the corner to symbolize that a smile is going to go there, okay? So once again, same as Photoshop, if you press and hold Shift, it will be a perfect square every time. All right, now I'm going to use my little selection tool, select it and click, hold, and drag it around. Make sure it's in that nice top left-hand corner. Little shortcut if you want an exact copy, Control-C as in Charlie, Control-V as in Victor. So with that box selected, make sure it's selected. You hit Control-C on your keyboard and then Control-V. And you can see it'll even make a copy for you. So I'm going to go ahead and place that and drag it where I need to, because in my little booklet in this case, I have two smiley faces up in the top right-hand corner, or top left-hand corners, all right? So that is a graphics box. Next type of frame, okay? There's two more kinds in the industry, but let me show you how to kind of trick the system here. So the frame right below our graphics frame, all right, this standard rectangle tool. This is often referred to as an unassigned box, okay, an unassigned frame. And that's because we don't really know what's in it. We just know that we want to place something in that area, okay? So I just placed my unassigned frame. And the cool part is normally this is used for filling something, so I'm just going to go ahead and give you an example. So maybe we'll put like a blue stripe down there or something, maybe a test strip, whatever have you. But that'll be later on in another lesson. So basically the understanding is these unassigned frames, we're not sure what's going there yet, but that is how you create them. Now if you want to begin to make them assigned frames, watch what happens when I right click. So I get my menu with that frame selected. I go up to content, and as I said, there's 3 different frames that this could possibly be. Oh hey, look, a graphics frame, and even a text frame. Oh yeah, and the unassigned frame. If I select graphics frame, watch what happens. Changed into a graphics box. So literally, the unassigned frame is like a wild card. You can literally make it into whatever frame you want for nice layout, all right? So let me go ahead and pretend that I'm going to put this right up here, this little title, okay? So maybe I make a nice unassigned frame. Yep, just about like that. And I right-click, go down to content, and maybe a picture's going there. Maybe it's a graphic, okay? Cool. I'm making some good graphics boxes. I'm trying to get the layout, trying to make this look organized, this magazine look very neat, okay? So the next thing I want to do is maybe I want to switch that up, and now I want to put text there, because it even says some type of title right up here. All right, so let me switch it over to text. Mr. Thom, there's no text. What the heck? Okay, so let's switch it up. So the reason that there's no text is because, well, we just made the box for the text. We didn't type in any text. So let's talk about how to put text into a text box. So right up here, the big T, the type tool. Yeah, that's the one used for text. So you just select that tool, and you'll see if I hover over that certain box that we've already assigned as a text box, it registers it. See how it has that outline saying, yeah, I'll make a text box. But if I hover over my assigned box that I've made a text box, that little square around the cursor goes away. That's because this is now home, okay? This has made it to the text area. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and now I can type. Hey, Mr. Thom, how's your day? Oh, well, there's only one black line. So basically what I'm going to have to do is kind of resize it. The reason that you only see a black line is if I hit Control plus and zoom in. There's my text. The text is so small that the software won't even register it and portray it. So basically what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to highlight this. So let me go ahead and zoom in and show you what I'm doing. All right, again, Control plus to zoom in. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of these, and I am going to resize by coming up here and using my text adjustments. So you can see I have the symbol for text size and it's in 12 points, so I can drop that down and adjust the size accordingly. So we'll go with something like maybe 36. Again, just like in Photoshop, right here with the fancy words is where you adjust your font. I'm going to keep it as Minion Pro. It's kind of a formal font. And last but not least, before I let you off the hook with text here, I want to talk about justification. So right up in this top right-hand corner is all of your justifications. So you have left aligned, center aligned if you want to make it look more formal, right aligned if you want to make it look edgy, and we have some justifies. So basically that just spreads the words across so that it takes up the whole line, makes it look a little bit more formal, but I'm just going to go with center justification in this case. All right, cool. So there's that. The next thing that I am going to show you is going to be dot positioning, which is how to correctly position where all of these are located, where all the box will be located. So dot positioning. Dot positioning is how to arrange different squares or frames in a certain location. So earlier what you saw me do is you saw me make kind of squares just kind of like I don't care. I just kind of place them wherever. The issue is, and all I do to delete those that I created is use the select tool, select them, and then hit delete on my keyboard. Now if you're having trouble select any type of frame or anything, you actually have to click on the line. So be sure to click on the line in order to delete them. Then you can hit delete on your keyboard, and now they're deleted. Click on the line again, deleted. But I digress, okay? So what dot positioning allows us to do is actually arrange it on our document more orderly, more organized. So to give you an example of what I mean, let's go ahead and say that I want to put a unassigned frame right in the center of this paper, all right? So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool, and before I do anything, you'll see if I click, which tricky, the regular click, if you don't click, hold, and drag, you can actually designate the certain size that you would like these boxes, all right, these frames. The only issue is right now they're in picas, okay? So I don't know about you, but I haven't memorized all of these certain dimensions of picas, multiples of 6. I'd rather just work in plain old-fashioned inches, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that one real quick, all right? So what we need to do first is we got to switch up our rulers here, all right? So the top set of rulers up top here, if you right-click on them, you will see that you have all of these options now, okay? And one is inches. So go ahead and change it to inches. If your rulers aren't there, what you have to do is head on up to View, okay? Go down to Rulers, and yours should say Show Rulers, okay? Much like mine does. You can also see Control-R will allow you to toggle them on and off. So right now I've changed my horizontal rulers to inches. Now I got to do the same to the other side. So be sure to do that on the left margin rulers as well. Speaking of margins, please note that that's what those pink outlines are, okay? So that's basically saying, hey, Mr. Thom, don't put anything on the sides here. It'll look bad, okay? It won't look professional. So you always want to work inside your margins. My margins are 1/2 inch, 3 picas, okay, which you saw me set up on my document originally. So, still I digress. Dot placement, all right? So say I want to put that unassigned rectangle right in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and click. All right, right now we can designate how big we want this rectangle to be. I am going to put like a huge set of words in the center. So maybe good day or something of the such. So I'm going to make this thing rather large. I'm going to make it 5 inches by 5 inches. All right, now watch what happens when I click OK. Wow, yeah, pretty large unassigned box that is eventually going to become a type box, okay? Wow, where is it? I have no idea. It's not centered. This is kind of bad, all right? So here's the issue, all right? We just kind of clicked wherever and it placed it wherever. It's not exact. Dot positioning is located right up in the top here, all right? So you'll see all of these little tiny squares, and notice that we have 3 on the top, 3 going down the side, 3 on the bottom, basically a grid of 9. Those dots are exact locations of your handles around those edges, those little square boxes. So notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then as well as my center. And up top here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as well as my center. So if I click around these dots, it's going to give me in terms of X and Y. So for those of you that weren't paying attention in math when they were going over coordinate planes, now is the time to remember or review. This is why math is important, if you've ever asked that question. All right. So for instance, the center of this square, if I click on the center, you'll see my center dot begin to get highlighted. But there it is. All right. And all I did was click on it. So the center of my dot, okay, the center of this box, the exact center right there, as I have it highlighted, is 3 or 5 and almost a half inches into the document, okay, as well as 6 and a little bit above a half up from the bottom of the document, okay, or sorry, down from the top. So you can kind of correlate with your rulers here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a quarter, okay. So if I went straight down, yeah, that looks like it matches up. Starting from the top, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little over a half. Yep. So this is for sure giving me the location of this center dot. I want it centered on that piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the X value on this specific page that we have. It is 8.5 inches long, or 8.5 inches wide, as we've set up in our document setup. So half of 8.5. What is it? Well, 4 and a quarter. Okay, 4.25. So be sure you know your decimals. 0.25, 25%, 1 quarter, kind of like 25 cents on the dollar. 4.25, and if I hit Tab, which is right above caps lock on your keyboard, you'll see it'll even shift it over. So now this is perfectly in line with the center. Let's make this rectangle perfectly in the center of this piece of paper. So we have a height of 11. All right, the height of 11, half of 11 is going to be 5.5. So 5.5. Now if I hit Tab again, shifts the square up. This frame is now perfectly in the center, and it is perfectly 5.5 inches. To show you kind of the inaccuracy earlier, let me go ahead and click on my text box that I made earlier. What kind of measurement is that? 5.633333, 1.7. Those aren't exact measurements, okay? That doesn't even make sense in the imperial measurement system. So you can even adjust the sizes, okay? So there we go. And there we go. So you can see I'm sizing up my type boxes, making them look more legitimate, make them exact. So that is dot positioning. I've went over rulers. I've went over how to view. And honestly, that is all I have for you today. So all we did was learn how to create documents, set them up, and make frames, all right? And that is going to be very important when it comes to creating type boxes, setting up layout, etc., etc. I will see you for the next tutorial. Please be sure to take the exit ticket. And of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. Thank you for being awesome. Also, be sure to save.